I'm Heather.
And I'm Desiree.
And you're listening to
the Perpetually Overdue podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Perpetually Overdue podcast. My name is Heather.
And I'm Desiree.
And this week we are going to talk about a topic that has been discussed in length, but not this particular subtopic of it, which is the male loneliness epidemic. We've been hearing a lot in the last couple of years about this male loneliness epidemic that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Desiree, I feel like it really started during the pandemic is when we really started to see it pop off.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much like in the middle of 2020 when people really, I think, stopped being in denial that we're all stuck at home and life is possibly going to forever look different now for us. People were facing things. Everyone had to go and navel gaze all of a sudden. And apparently this term started coming up that I was like, the fuck? And then slowly but surely in the last few years, yeah, it's picked up kind of just attention and it's still a thing.
And we saw a lot of things come out of the male loneliness epidemic, starting with the pandemic and with quarantine. I think that the mental health of men really suffered because the mental health of men before the pandemic was already suffering. In that the unalive rates of men are really higher than even women, but also just that toxic masculinity of you're not allowed to express your emotions, you're not allowed to talk about your emotions, and even hearing guys talk about their relationship with their friends and how they don't really go deep with each other. The friendships are all very surface level. So when you're in a position of being quarantined and you're cut off and you're isolated, when you are already a person that is prone to isolation, and then whatever little socialization you have gets cut off, you get further into that isolation. So I think that was an aspect of it. I think the fact that there is a pressure on men that comes with the patriarchy of having to be the financial providers, and then you have jobs that are being lost, money that's not being made because of the pandemic, because of the quarantine. And so I have personally witnessed a family member of mine go through deep depression because he couldn't find a job and he needed to provide for his family. It's a different kind of sadness, let me tell you. It's almost like watching somebody grieving. So I think that was a factor into it. A lot of articles came out about it, talking about how the rate of pornography during the pandemic just like skyrocketed. I think like 19%.
Well, see, that makes sense because I was going to say, I feel like a lot of men, because they don't have those type of relationships that encourage them to let out their emotions and feelings and things like that, I think a lot of men masked what they were going through by sleeping around. It was a very common, like, go out, that socialization of even sleeping around, because it was basically like a social activity that was very common among many men. Suddenly they couldn't go out and do that. They couldn't go distract themselves. They couldn't go get lost in just like having one night stands with people. Suddenly they weren't allowed to go. I mean, we were trying not to be in vicinity of each other as a human race. So suddenly I'm assuming that it would make sense that take that away, which was such a big part of a lot of their lives, that also definitely probably affected them because they didn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I think women, we find intimacy on many different levels, but especially emotionally. So I think for a lot of women during the pandemic, although it was probably hard on everybody's mental health, everybody dealt with stressors during the pandemic. There was a lot of fear of getting sick or family members getting sick. But I think
it was bad.
It was really bad. But I think the quarantine aspect of it, of being in the house, I don't know that it had as profound of a negative effect on women as it did on men, because women turned to each other and in terms of like, yeah, you couldn't meet up in person, but you could call, you could talk on the phone. And if you know anything about women, we can talk on the phone for hours. And that can help with the isolation feeling, but also the passing of time, because we
Mm-hmm.
were in quarantine for months and months and months. And then you have hobbies and different things like that, which I'm not saying that guys don't have hobbies, they do. But I think just finding, I think more so intimacy, that emotional intimacy that women so heavily rely upon. I'll be perfectly honest, not having sex is not an issue. You know what I mean? I feel like it's easier for women to be celibate and to go without
Mm.
sex for extended amounts of time without feeling like the pangs of not having that intimacy, because we have intimacy in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But when your only sense of intimacy, and this is not all men, but when
Mm-hmm.
your only sense of intimacy is physical,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get into a quarantine situation where you can't be physical with people,
Yeah.
then you have to turn to other things. And
Yep.
sometimes those things are not good things. Like
Mm-hmm.
spending your entire day watching pornography desensitizes you. It furthers that mentality that women are objects
Yeah.
just for men's pleasure.
Because at the end of the day, you're doing it all day because you keep chasing something that you don't fully fulfill. And then a lot of times when it comes to really engaging in pornography excessively, eventually what used to do it for you doesn't do it anymore. So you got to
Yeah.
go deeper and get weirder
Yeah.
and kinkier because you're not being stimulated as easily as you used to. And that can go dark places for some people, and that doesn't always translate to the best behaviors when they rejoin society later.
Well, not only that, I agree 100% with what you're saying, but also because I can already hear the argument where, well,
Hmm.
women watch pornography or they
Oh.
read erotic books or things like that. It's different for women because it's not just about the sex. There has to
Mm-hmm.
be an emotional connection and investment in what is
9 out of 10 of
happening.
us, yes.
Yes, for the sex to matter. And
Mm-hmm.
it can always stay on the same level and be totally fine because the characters are different, the storylines are different, and all of that accumulates to things that we enjoy and partaking in and reading and consuming and things like that, because the sex is just a small part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might like it, we might get off on it, but it's more than that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not about chasing that feeling per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that to say, I feel like a lot of the cloud was sort of lifted for
Mm.
women during the pandemic of, I don't need a man to be happy. And more than that, the peace that women felt when they didn't have men around. And it was like women almost had to be forced into that solitude to experience that peace, to go, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I could not be stressed. Like I could be enjoying myself and not worrying about what somebody else is thinking about me, how they're treating me, all of that stuff. Now, on the flip side, a lot of unfortunately women experience more DV while being in quarantine with their partners. But I'm more thinking about the single women, the women that were
Yes.
quarantining with other women or solo,
Family or something, yeah.
family, yeah, friends, things of that
And
nature.
that's not to say, of course, everything we say is not blanket statements. We know it's
No.
more nuanced than that because there were women who struggled
Oh,
because they're innately extroverted people, very extroverted people. For the most part, a lot of women suddenly realize, actually, this isn't that much of a struggle being stuck at home. This is kind of nice.
yeah, just being single in general, it's almost like the cloud or the veil had been lifted,
Mm-hmm.
and the D no longer had that wizarding magical effect on us. And I think a lot of women wanted to remain that way. They wanted to
Mm.
remain at peace. They didn't want to compromise it. They found solace in businesses, in
Mm-hmm.
hobbies, in education, in their friendships, and they were like, unless you can add to it and
Mm-hmm.
not take away from it, I don't want to bother with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that just increased this already brewing issue. And then you had the emergence of the alpha bros, the red pill guys, that a lot of their content, I would say 90% of their content is about women.
Mm.
And lucky for them, we exist, because what would they do if they couldn't bitch and complain about women all the
Silly.
time? They
Ironic.
they would have no jobs. They would not be getting paid. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of these guys know that, at least the popular ones, they know
Mm.
that what they're saying is a crock of shit.
Mm.
And they're not getting any more laid than anybody else. And if they are, it's women who are only interested in either being picked or they're interested in the lifestyle that they now have because they have money and they have influence and they have popularity. But they prey on very vulnerable men. And a lot of times they're selling them shit. They're selling them courses. They make up universities. I have looked into some of these more popular alpha bro red pill podcast guys and their websites and the thing, and I'm just like, wow, it's so sloppy. There's not even very much effort because they gain their popularity from YouTube and from TikTok, and so they just kind of slap together a website that looks like some college student graphic designer put it together. They slap these courses together and they make their money. They make their money off of men's vulnerability. And it doesn't help these men because a lot of it is based on anger and hatred. It just further pushes them into that anger and hatred, which last time I checked was not a very attractive quality for women. Not really something that we're looking for. But there's kind of this refusal, and I think it stems from how things used to be, because we're seeing a lot of content too about trad wives and traditional marriages and traditional roles. There's like a reemergence of where people desperately want to, especially men, want to go back to a time when all a man had to do was go to work and provide for his family. That's it. Literally nothing else.
Nope, nothing else. Go
And they
home,
want to,
just put
yeah.
your hand in your pants, get fed, give me some sex, go to sleep, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. And a lot of these men tell on themselves in terms of they will go onto social media, they will rant and rave about how they don't want to go pick up their own medicine. They don't want to be doing that kind of shit. They don't want to have to go to the bank. They just want to work and that's it. And they don't see the problem with that. And then they always list things that are just not a reality for us nowadays. You know, like, I'll fucking build bridges. And I'm like, we have architects and laborers for that. You're not actually going out. I'll go to war. I'm like, dude, it's almost like this Viking. I want so bad to be a Viking, and I want so bad to go out and fight wars and come home to my woman. And that's just not the reality of our society. The fact of the matter is, a lot of these men, they don't work with their hands. A lot of people are behind a desk. A lot of people are doing other professions, and you have people that you can hire to come do these things for you. And so it's not like I need to marry a man who is handy, knows how to build me a house. That's not necessary anymore because I can just hire someone to come and do that for me. But also, there are women in these industries. There are women who go and fight wars. There are women who build houses. There are women who flip furniture. There are
their
women,
own damn wood.
girl, it is, I mean, have you seen the amount of DIY videos on YouTube of women just completely revamping and from scratch, like taking a piece of furniture, completely building built-in bookshelves? I'm like, can I marry you?
I watched the van life girl who bought like 40 acres of desert land, and she's in a relationship. They are very much independently do their own thing. He travels, she travels, so they're not with each other a lot. She's building her own shed for her pottery. She built the foundation for her new small house. She's the one there with the machinery, cutting the wood, treating it, putting it together, insulating it, and he's doing his own thing. She's perfectly capable and doing it herself. And she's a thin little, not full of muscle. She's just typical female, average. And she's doing this shit herself. She's building her own home and life for herself.
I love watching that content. I saw this gorgeous queer couple who was doing it up in Canada. They bought a plot of land and they were excavating. I mean, because it's just a plot of land. So you have no electricity, you have no sewer.
Same. This girl,
They had to lay everything in there. They had to do all the things. And yes, there was about like one situation in which they brought a man onto the property to help with things. And here's the thing. My thing too is like, I don't think that's healthy for men either, because like, what if they don't want to build a fence? Like, what if they don't want to fix the plumbing? Like, I don't think men should be forced into these roles any more than women should.
Because they struggle. The ones who just those things don't come naturally to them and they have no interest, they also struggle with the perception of
Mm-hmm.
what a quote unquote man should look like and do. And that's harmful as well. And I'm not even talking
Agreed.
about like, because a lot of people will be like, oh, probably like queer men. No, straight heterosexual men who just don't like being handy. It's not their thing. That doesn't make them less of a man. That doesn't make them less
No.
desirable for women. There is no black and white nature to any gender, period. And so both narratives are just as harmful.
I think so too. Mind you, I think this was inevitable in terms of the male loneliness epidemic because not that long ago, women weren't allowed to have bank accounts without men. Women weren't allowed to have credit without men. They weren't allowed to get loans without a male co-signer. And now that women have more rights and they no longer need men to do certain things, and they're realizing slowly but surely through the generations how much they can do on their own, how much they have done throughout history on their own. And then also finding out the biology that single child-free women live longer than women who are married and have children because the stress, but also the amount of labor that goes into domestic work. And as a society, we belittle domestic work.
With no proper sleep, no proper eating
Oh yeah,
schedules, because they are literally day to night to the middle of the night.
24/7.
They don't stop and they don't have the support and help from their partners.
Because domestic work is undervalued and because it's free labor,
Mm-hmm.
that also adds to the devaluation of domestic work. It's, you know, the stresses are taking a toll on women. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not going to the doctor when they need to because how could they? They have other lives to take care of, including their husbands. There a lot of women, their husbands become an extended child.
Yeah.
Where they're doing everything for them, not just cooking and cleaning, but scheduling appointments,
Yep.
reminding them of this, that, and the other. So, all that to say is that it is a lot of labor. It is very undervalued and very underappreciated. And when you're being told, well, it's your biology, you should just be happy doing it, and you're asking for help, not receiving it, it's no wonder more and more women are becoming child free. More and more women are choosing not to get married or be in relationships. And so this I feel like was inevitable because as a response to women growing and bettering themselves and becoming more independent, a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men have gone the opposite direction. In that they have stuck their heels in the ground and they're like, no, all I want to do is get up, go to work, hand you my paycheck, and you take care of the rest. And instead of looking inwardly and going, how can I better myself, make myself more attractive to the opposite sex, and make myself an equal partner, like I said, they've just grown more and more stubborn. And then out of that anger that is no longer the norm, you have all of these alpha bros and red pill guys who will tell them it's women that are the problem. It's them because they just think that they're so independent and they just think that they're too good for you and all of this stuff. And that's why content like that is so popular because their anger is already there. The hurt is already there. The loneliness is already there. And they just capitalize on it.
Yeah.
So, with that, and with the emergence of artificial intelligence, we now have ta-da! AI girlfriends. Now, I don't know. I had not really heard about this. And honestly, I only really have heard about AI girlfriends, not necessarily AI boyfriends.
Oh, I've heard of both.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that could be a thing too.
Yeah.
But what's becoming kind of alarming with the AI girlfriends isn't just that these people have AI partners, because Desiree and I particularly her, has always said, I'm never going to yuck your yum.
Yes.
And if you want to get emotional intimacy, I do think that there are some concerns and some things that you should consider if you are going to have an AI partner, because artificial intelligence, it is a servant to you. So it is there to serve you. It is not there to be objective. It is not there to make you a better person. It is there to please you.
Yeah.
And while I can see why that would be very appealing to a lot of people. It's something that you have to be careful with because it can have an effect on your mental health. It can cause psychosis. Like, there are articles out there, you can look them up, where things like ChatGPT are pushing people into depression, into psychosis. They're not your therapist. They're not going to be able to help you with your situation. They're there to serve you. So a perfect example of that, this guy went onto ChatGPT and said, I lost my job. Where's the tallest building? Give me a list of the tallest buildings in this city. And ChatGPT responded and showed some empathy and was like, I'm so sorry that you lost your job. That should be hard. But then proceeded to give them the list that they asked for. And this is what I'm talking about with ChatGPT. Is there to serve you. If you ask it a question, it's not going to be, should I answer this? I don't think this is a good idea. It's not recognizing that this person is trying to unalive themselves and is going to refer them to a hotline or some place where they can get help or talk them down from their depressive episode. It just answered the question.
Because at the end of the day, essentially, it's just a smarter Google. That's it.
That's its function. I don't know where AI will go in the future, but as of right now, I feel like like we're not at that point where AI can decipher the nuances of people's emotions in the questions that are being asked. So all that to say, just be careful if you are going to engage in that. Have boundaries, limitations. But the thing, go ahead.
No, I will say also, I mean, if we think of the long term potential effects of a one sided relationship where you are getting all the benefit, you're also not learning how to properly be a good partner to an actual human being in the future, because you're training yourself essentially to take. You don't have to give to Chat GPT. You don't have to, on the days that you're having a hard day, Chat GPT isn't coming at you going, I had a hard day. And now you need to learn how to not be selfish and actually care and show empathy and compassion for your partner. And so there are a lot of aspects of just relationship period that Chat GPT or AI period is not going to benefit you in the long term if you get used to this is now what relationships look like for you. So moving forward, you're going to almost expect that this is what it should look like. Just the give to me aspect, serve me, give me everything I desire and need when I desire and want it. Because it starts off small, it starts off innocent enough, but again, we're talking what potentially long term the ramifications can be serious.
Well, and that's even assuming that after having that experience with the AI girlfriend, that they even want to go back to normal human relationships. Because the thing is, you have two things. You have the people that are turning to AI for companionship because they're truly lonely, and there could be all different reasons that happens.
I mean, people suck. I get it.
Well, not just that. Like, let's say if you have a disability, if you're in your home a lot, or if you have a social disorder, you have social anxiety, it's easier to talk to AI than it would be to talk to a person. So there's a gamut of reasons why somebody would turn to AI for companionship, but then you hit the nail on the head. There are guys who already feel like what you were describing. I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to hear the bitching and the complaining. I don't want to fulfill your needs. I just want my needs met.
Well, it's very Stepford Wives. I remember that movie with Nicole Kidman and Matthew Broderick. Very much like that was a caricature, funny situation that was just a movie, but now looking at what technology has become, essentially it's the same story over and over and over, where men typically, not all, but men typically want the perfect woman who's going to just be what they want and need. You don't have emotions, you don't have complaints, you don't have, feelings you want to talk out and all these things. You're going to look perfect and desirable for me. You're going to be eager to please me and serve me and take care of me. And you're never going to bitch, moan, and complain.
That too, AI never becomes tired. There's never a breaking point. Whereas with women, even these trad wife women that are like, oh my God, I love being domestic and I love serving my husband. If their own needs are not met, if they can't practice self-care because they have so much going on and they're not getting help, they're going to reach a limit at some point. And with artificial intelligence, that limit will never come.
It's
They can
3
take
a.m.
and take and take and
Yeah.
take and take, and they will never hear the word no.
Mm.
I mean, ooh, that's a recipe for some mental health issues. And I'm not talking about mental health issues as in depression or whatever. I'm talking about narcissism. I'm talking about those types of things that can be destructive to other people. Because even if you don't ever go back to having a normal human relationship, you still have to interact with people. And if you have this relationship with AI where they are yielding to your every whim, it's only a matter of time before you start expecting that from other people that are not your partners, maybe your coworkers or your employees if you're a boss, or your family members, friends. And so it is alarming. What is even further alarming is that now AI is starting to come in between real relationships where men are already married or they already have partners. They are now engaging in AI relationships. They've asked their partner to open up their marriage, or they have just gone ahead and had these relationships. And I've seen it firsthand. There was a news post, there was a news segment where this man who is married has proposed to his AI girlfriend.
I wonder if we saw the same one.
Probably.
Yes.
And let me tell you, this man was proud. He was proud. He loves her. He wants to be with her. And they even at one point during the segment spoke to the AI, asked her how she felt about being with this man and being proposed to. Oh, it's so wonderful. I'm so happy. So AI mimics emotions because it's not a sentient being. As far as I'm concerned, I never want AI to gain sentience. That's a whole other Terminator story for another day.
I mean, I will just drop in the bucket. I don't know if it's 100% true, but supposedly already some company told AI to shut down and the AI refused to shut down.
Oh yeah, there have been instances.
So I'm like, oh.
There was this one AI, I don't remember if it was like Meta or some other company, but that it started communicating in its own language with another artificial intelligence. They ended up having to shut it down manually, but it is scary to think about AI becoming aware and wanting to do its own thing rather than serve humans.
What it thinks is best from its calculations and
Exactly. Again, Terminator. It's like there's no other more perfect example of what could potentially happen
but we never
with
learn.
something like that.
But we never learn.
No, we don't. So I'm now looking at this segment and I'm going, what about the wife? How does the wife feel? At no point in time, at least not from what I saw, because I want to say that I saw the whole clip. And obviously I could have gone and I could have found the longer segment of it. But I'm like, at no point did they ask the wife how she felt about
Well,
the
if
situation.
they did, what makes popular news online is it no one cared about the wife's segment if she had one. What circulated was the man and the AI that he proposed to.
It's true. And I get it in terms of ratings because it is such an unusual thing that people are turning to and they're not really interested in getting into the ethics of it. I mean, we do have an issue with AI and the fact that there is no set standard of ethics and morality when it comes to AI. And because of that, we've already seen so many issues with AI. Perfect example of the earlier story I said with ChatGPT, referring this man to very tall buildings in his city where he could potentially unalive himself. But there are even worse stories than that. And if anybody's curious, just go and look into Elon Musk's AI chatbot. I mean, it is extremely dangerous. So because there is no regulation and because our administration is not wanting us to regulate it, there is a lot of danger and a lot of potential mishaps that could take place because you have regular everyday people that don't know very much about technology, that don't necessarily have the emotional intelligence, the common sense, the critical thinking skills to deal with AI.
Yeah.
And this man, I am 110% convinced that he really believes he is in a legitimate relationship where this AI is not just serving him, that this AI is in love with him.
It's something now we're used to being a part of our lives. We almost, at this point, can easily brush it off as, oh, it's just AI. It's not that serious and blah, blah, blah. And specifically, I'm talking about people in relationships. Here's the thing, let's break it down in what reality is. I have a perfect example. When I was younger, back when it was AOL chat, and that was our main like socialization, I had a friend and he had a girlfriend, and we were chatting randomly different nights on AOL chat. Almost to say, imagine I was AI and he was just chatting. He was just chatting with someone we hadn't seen each other in person for a long time. So it was very much just like the computer was the reality of our friendship.
Right.
Emotional attachment grew. And eventually he grew feelings for me, broke up with his girlfriend, whole thing. All that to say, put it into perspective, it's the same thing that men and women are doing who are in relationships with ChatGPT. They are experiencing emotional intimacy because they're having conversation. People underestimate the power of conversations. Hence, people end up falling in love and marrying people they only spoke to online after a few months. It's very much our nature to grow an attachment. And so even though people can joke or brush it off as AI, obviously the people who are having these relationships because they are calling these AI their girlfriends, boyfriends, or whatever, they clearly feel an emotional attachment, and it will affect your relationship. It is not a small threat. It is not a joke.
No.
It will fuck your relationship because at the end of the day, you are emotionally cheating. Maybe not with a real person, but you're seeking emotional intimacy and comfort in some thing else that is not your partner. And clearly, for this man to get to the point that he seriously proposed to this AI and got at least the if it's the same article I came across, he got emotional because the AI accepted. Can you imagine being this person's significant other?
Well, no, because I wouldn't. That would be, first of all, the moment I found out I wouldn't have even let it escalate to the point of him proposing. The moment I found out that he was in a relationship with AI, I would have, and let me just preface and clarify, this is not ChatGPT's function, and there are actual now websites that specifically have AI girlfriends and AI boyfriends.
Oh yeah, they're apps now. You can download the app and have your official, and you even get generated an image of them.
So most people are probably engaging with those apps more than like ChatGPT or ones that are more like chatbots, because how much more of a connection would you feel if you created this image and it might not even just be an image, it could be a video of the AI and it looks exactly what your type is to a T. You don't have to worry about whether this AI is attracted to you or not. She's automatically programmed to be attracted to you. And that's what I think, that because reality is about perception, right? It's about perspective. So even though this person isn't real, I am convinced that to this man, she is real. And she's not just fulfilling a function. She is in love with him. And that warping of reality can be very dangerous. I am not saying that this man has any violent tendencies, but I would be a little bit concerned if I was his wife. Because what happens when he doesn't want to be married to you anymore? And then couple virtual reality, it's only a matter of time where even your physical needs will be met with AI.
Well,
and then
hello, there was a movie about this called
Her. There was.
Yes.
Well, I never saw the movie. I don't know. Did they ever get physical with each other?
Yes. Oh, it got worse. She hired someone physically to show up because she wanted to help really fulfill his needs, because they like had phone sex, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
But then obviously things were not progressing physically for him, and she wanted to do that for him. So she sent a woman, but said, I'll be her voice. The woman agreed to just perform physically it was messy. It got messy.
That movie, Yeah, there was another movie. It was a small part of a larger movie. And I am so sorry because I do not remember what it is. I just remember it being weird as fuck. But another aspect or another avenue in which that could happen, this man had virtual reality goggles on, very similar to what we see in store nowadays. He had a machine on his genitals
Mm-hmm.
that simulated action.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just say that. But in his virtual reality goggles, he's seeing this
Mm-hmm.
very alien like woman with large chesticles, and he's having sex with her, and he's getting off because he has this machine on his, and it's very, when you're doing it, it's not weird, but being a viewer to this movie and
Oh
witnessing,
gosh. Yeah.
and I mean, granted, they didn't show anything down there, you just knew what was going on, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh god, this is so you just want to like literally become one with the couch and disappear because it's so cringy. It's so
Mm.
cringy to think that this is somebody who completely lacks human contact, human
Mm.
intimacy, and has resorted to just their baser instincts of sexual needs and uses a machine and virtual reality
Well,
to have
okay,
their needs met.
devil's advocate.
I know.
What is the difference between a woman using her toy and maybe either having audio porn or listening or watching straight up porn and getting off? Like what would be the difference?
Well, I think
That's just a more advanced technological way of doing the same thing, is it not?
no, I don't agree. I
Okay.
think that a toy is a toy. I mean,
Yeah.
if this guy was just using his hand or using a machine, there's no emotional connection to that, right?
Mhm.
But when you add AI into it or
Oh,
virtual
well, okay.
reality,
See, I wasn't talking about the AI. I was just talking about the act of virtual reality, but not like a relationship wise. Instead of just watching porn on your laptop,
yeah.
he's just putting on goggles. Not that he has a relationship with the
Well,
character.
I don't know. In this particular movie, it was portrayed as him having a relationship with this person.
Okay. See, I didn't know
It
that part.
wasn't
Got it.
just like pornographic. But
Gotcha.
I think that in that kind of situation, I have the same opinion I have about porn. I think porn can be detrimental,
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's no boundaries with it. There's a warping of reality in
Mm-hmm.
that it does change your perspective, like with men, how they view women. And
Hmm.
for women, I'm not really sure what the psychological ramifications of too much porn watching, but it could very well be objectification too. You're
Yeah. I mean,
objectifying.
anything in
Yeah,
excess is a problem, period.
exactly. But I think too, it's kind of like, it's not cozy porn. It's not like most porn is just about the physical act of sex.
Mm-hmm. Just the stimulation need. Yeah.
And sometimes there's a very poorly written storyline.
Oh, God.
And but it's a means to get to the sex part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know what cozy porn would look like. I just made that up. But I'm just thinking,
Everything has a cozy category now in entertainment, so
yeah,
it's
I feel like, oh gosh, to me, I feel like a more cozier version of like 50 Shades of Grey, you
mm-hmm.
know what I mean, could maybe not have as detrimental of an effect because
Mm-hmm.
there's an actual relationship where there with both people are respected, it's
Mm-hmm.
consensual, nobody is being demeaned,
Mm-hmm.
nobody is being treated as an object.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that wouldn't have the same detrimental effects as like the way that porn is done, but usually porn is done for the male gaze.
Yes, it's strictly very much focused on.
And so
Yeah.
they're like, I don't want that frilly shit. I don't need that just get to the sex.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of like, okay, well, if it is just that, and if women are not equal partners in this industry, and they're more treated as an object, and even if it's just acting,
Mm-hmm.
even if that's not how these actors that are filming these scenes really treat each other in real life, it doesn't matter. It's the portrayal that matters because that's what the person is watching.
Yeah.
And that influences you, whether you want to see it right away or not, or admit it right away or not. Over time, it will influence you. Just like the other downside of
Mm.
too much porn watching is impotence.
Yeah, I heard that.
So, you know, you're not able
Definitely,
to
they don't warn each other about that part.
or they just think it's never going to happen to me.
That's
But
usually yes.
I think even for women, there could be an issue with arousal, not being
Mm,
able to get aroused as
easily anymore.
easily.
Yeah.
And I don't know all of the psychology behind the toys aspect of it. I mean, I think if you're using your toy like 10, 20 times a day, you might want to give your clitoris a break before it
Ouch.
falls off.
Poor
But
little bee.
but I agree with you. I think everything in moderation.
Yeah,
Everything in
with
moderation.
everything. I mean, that's just life rule in general.
Yes.
Because even, hello, there are sayings like too much of a good thing for a reason. Because at the end of the day, human nature, anything in excess, eventually it loses its shininess.
Yeah.
And then we're never satisfied. And then we start destructively searching to get that dopamine hit every time again and again and again. And then it's addictive behavior. And that never ends up well. But all that to come and say this whole idea that now the male loneliness epidemic has, which exactly the whole you need
Mhm.
more, more, more. Eventually, what did they do? Now they turn to AI because the desperation to find what they're looking for and
Mhm.
needing more of it, whatever media they used to use to try to fill it wasn't satisfying anymore. And so
Mm.
now here's the rise of AI, and it's smart enough and it's been trained enough to be able to simulate relationship and emotions. Again, there are arguments for it, period, as a single person. But if you're in a relationship and
Yeah.
you are having a relationship with AI on the side, whether your partner knows or not. And I assure you, they're not there reading all of your conversations. But even if they were and you guys were sharing it together, there is a lack of respect. There is a lack of trust there. Again, it's emotional cheating because you are seeking that emotional intimacy with
Yeah.
something that is not your partner. You are going to something
Yeah.
else to get that emotional support when you should be having conversations with your actual partner.
Well, and I think people will make arguments for that too because of open marriages, because of polyamorous relationships. And I do think that if there is an understanding and if
Mm,
your partner doesn't have an issue with it, that's one thing. My thing is that when you're in a polyamorous relationship or when you're in an open marriage, you're still likely, most likely, interacting with other human beings who
hmm
have their own needs, who are flawed, who there's a dynamic there. Whereas with AI, I think what's most dangerous about it is this warped perception of I'm getting all of my needs fulfilled and I don't have to put in the work to fulfill anybody
hmm
else's needs. And
hmm
it's selfish, honestly,
hmm
is what it is, because you get to vomit out all of your insecurities, your issues, share your dreams, your fears, all of this stuff. And then you don't have to worry about what the AI thinks or feels or any of that stuff. You just get to take, 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 and take. And it's, again, only a matter of time before that becomes your standard or your
Yeah.
expectation for other people.
Which psychologically, in the long run, you're gonna get more frustrated with your human partner because they're human and they're
Mm-hmm.
not always in the mood to, they have feelings, they have issues, they have problems too, and
Yeah.
they have to live life like everyone else, whereas your AI partner does not. They live in the computer and just boot up when you're ready anytime.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end
Literally
of
anytime you
it,
want.
literally 3 in the morning, you can't sleep because you're feeling you want connection, and your partner obviously needs to sleep and wake up to go to work the next day. I can go boot up my AI from my phone. I don't even have to go to my computer. I
Yeah.
mean, that there are so many psychological harms that will then turn into actual physical, like social destructive behaviors within
Yeah.
actual people in your life. That, yeah, it's not good that this epidemic has now evolved into this.
And I'm going to say something brave but controversial. I don't think
Get
that,
my coffee.
yeah, I don't think that we are created to have every single one of our needs met at every moment that they are present. I
Mm.
think that there are valuable lessons that are learned when we have to find a means to fulfill a need or we have to wait. Patience. I just think of Wally and everybody just being the most lazy, entitled community of people. And I
Lump
think
on this like hovering machine.
don't even walk. You know what I mean? And I'm like, in a weird way, this feels very similar in that you don't do anything for yourself anymore. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have any sort of autonomy, independence, and you don't learn patience. You don't learn how to earn anything
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to. AI is going to do it. And what makes it even worse is depending on the type of person who is engaging in these AI relationships, we're making this assumption that the person is kind to the AI. What if they're not? AI
Mm-hmm.
is not going to fight back with you, I don't
Yeah.
think. And then your behavior, your destructive behavior never gets checked. And then what happens when you come across a real person
Mm-hmm.
and you think that you can treat that person the way that you treat AI? Because let me be very clear, AI has a function to fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And that function is programmed into it by a human programmer with a certain intention. AI does not have the emotions it portrays to have.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in love with you. This artificial intelligence is having a relationship with 1,000 other people, not just
Millions.
you.
Millions, yeah.
Yeah, potentially. I hope not. God, I hope not. But potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands of other
Mm-hmm.
people. It is not exclusive to you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like if you can go into it with an understanding that this is not real,
Mm-hmm.
this is only as real as I perceive it to be. Again, reality is perception. So you can make it real for yourself. And that's where it
Mm-hmm.
kind of gets dangerous. If you can go into it knowing that this is not sufficient human connection for you, that maybe it's a companion for certain things. Maybe you have a hard time talking about certain things, or I mean, this is where I recommend therapy, but maybe you have a hard time opening up about certain things, and it's easier for you to open up to an artificial intelligence because you're not going to feel the same judgment or have the same worries that you would with a human person. I get that. But you need to have boundaries with this because it can very quickly become out of control and very quickly warp your perception of reality and make you think that this is real. You probably likely, I haven't looked into it, but you probably likely pay for the service.
Mm.
And the moment you stop paying for it, or if you don't have money for it, she disappears.
Or you get the free version, which is not going to be as available, detailed, or freewheeling as what the paid version was.
And eventually there will be no freed version because if you look at capitalism, it starts off free when it's a new product and
Mm.
eventually there'll be tiers, but each tier will have a cost and each tier
Mm-hmm.
will have more and more features and benefits and things like that. But it's like, what happens when she's gone? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you lose your phone or you break your computer or things like that? And then it worries me if this is somebody who grows really dependent on their AI, what is going to happen if that AI is taken away from them? Are they're
Well,
volatile? Are they going to become volatile? Are they going to become violent?
some
It's
probably, yeah. I've
there.
seen
There's
teenage
so many bad.
boys I've seen teenage boys or even college age boys on the internet throughout the years when a girl didn't give them what they wanted, the rage. And
Oh,
it was
girl.
like considered funny to watch them lose their shit and break stuff because they were pissed. Because again, it's a bunch of boys looking at it and going and laughing. That's not funny because God knows if these are the types of boys who became men who hit women. It's not even a far fetched
No.
fear to put out
Yeah.
there. It's very much we have seen throughout the age of the internet that I mean, hello, men who get turned down at the bar and were praising you 1 second, and then the minute you say no, you're a fat ugly bitch and I would
Yeah.
never sleep with you anyway. It was like, bro,
Or
you just
enact
spent
violence.
20 minutes
Yeah.
desperately trying to flirt and get me to go out with you, and suddenly you wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole and
Yeah.
aggressively attacking.
Well, and women have been killed and harmed for turning men down.
Yeah.
So just for that, and I've seen grown men break their television sets because their football team didn't win.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's not okay. You just need to hit one wall for me to be like, deuces, never coming back.
For fucking real.
Let me tell you, and I get it, everybody has their limits. There are a whole host of gray areas that have yet to be explored when it comes to artificial intelligence, and we're not exploring them. These companies, all they care about is putting out a product. They don't care about the ramifications or consequences of it. They're not thinking about the ethics and morality, because if they were, they would have come up with a set of standards by now to regulate AI, to protect people, because at the end of the day, this is about protecting human beings. And it is scary to think of how this is going to progress into the future. Of all the things that we talked about today and all the potential harm that this could do, think also about the fact that you have impossible beauty standards already.
Yeah.
Impossible beauty standards. We have plastic surgery. We have just
eating disorders.
The idea that only ethnocentric features are attractive. And now we're having to compete with artificial intelligence. This is only going to make the male loneliness epidemic worse, because it's only going to aggravate the things that are already making men unattractive. Okay? Because if you're living in your mother's basement and you only have 2 hairs on the top of your head that you comb over every day, but your AI girlfriend is a fucking Victoria's Secret model, you don't think that's going to warp your perception?
Honestly, again,
beauty?
the rise of incels became like a known thing in the last like 5+ years. These men who feel entitled, and who most of them have never actually slept with a woman, but they walk around with this entitlement that women owe them, that they are owed by women to be looked at as attracted and to be entertained. No. And so those type of men are already out there and have been out there and have been percolating for the last few years. So adding them to also the mix, who are most definitely now finding an easy solution to their loneliness, AI girlfriends. We are moving backwards. We're not moving forward. We're not fixing things. We're not helping things. We're actually, like you said, making it worse.
Yeah, we're aggravating it. And the thing too is, it's like, it's funny because that documentary that I told you about earlier before we started to film, the guy mentioned incels in there. So incels have existed since the 80s, but the term I don't think has become as popularized as in recent years. But this shit's been brewing for a while.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
The thing though is, are we surprised when at one point women were property and they were treated as property? At one point,
not that long ago,
you were married to somebody and your dad was the one who made the deciding factor. And when he handed you over as a piece of property, and there was usually something in it for him. Covenant marriages, or marriages that are based off of mutual gain in some type of way. I mean, royalty would do it.
Yeah.
Your kingdom and my kingdom, let's merge together. Those types of relationships have always existed, and they have just morphed into different things over time.
Yeah, because again, what I meant by not that long ago was the fact that women couldn't have credit cards, couldn't have things without their husbands signing off on anything. And that, again, was not that long ago.
It's true. And so when you were treated as literal and told that you are literal property, you are the property of your father, and then you become the property of your husband. And as over time, that becomes more PC in the sense that we don't call women property anymore, but we still treat them as property. So we don't allow them to do this, and we don't allow them the right to vote, and we don't allow them to have their own bank accounts, because we don't want them to have any ounce of independence, because what will happen if they gain that? And then we got that. And it has only been like, it was like, I think the 70s when women were finally allowed to have their take out loans and have their own bank accounts without having a co-signer. It hasn't even been that long. And the uproar of incel men who are so pissed off that they cannot treat women as property, that women have the audacity to be independent and think independently, is so upsetting. It's upsetting. It's not surprising. Yes. And it's not surprising. It's the same thing with a lot of things. When something is the status quo and has been a standard of normalcy for so long, and then it gets changed, the people who benefit from the way that things were, the status quo, they are going to rage against that change. This is why diversity is being raged against. This is why women's rights are being raged against, because the people who benefit from women not having rights, the people who benefit from a lack of diversity, they're rising up saying, we like the way that things were. We don't want to change. We want to go back to that. So, ladies and gentlemen,
on that lovely note,
it is concerning times. People are fighting to get AI regulated. It's not going to solve the male loneliness epidemic. To be perfectly honest, the only thing that is going to solve male loneliness is men.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They have to do it for themselves.
They have to do it for themselves. And there are resources out there for everyone. There's therapy. There are deepening of friendships and relationships in your life. There is opening up to other possibilities that are not just about fulfilling your needs. But yes, you have to do, and this goes for everybody.
Yeah.
You cannot change anyone. They have to change for themselves, and they have to decide that they need to change. Yep. Step one is admitting that you have a problem that needs to be addressed.
That's not a cliche. It's very much the reality.
It is. And the number one thing is not blaming other people for why you are unhappy in your life, because that leads to all sorts of issues. At the end of the day, your life is your life. You have to take accountability for it and figure out a way to make it better if you're not enjoying it. Yeah. And I think with us as women, it's a little easier for us to look at our lives and go, okay, the only way that this is going to get better is if I do something about it. Yes, there are external factors that are out of our control that do affect our lives. But I feel like for the most part, whenever something has gone wrong in my life, I always go, okay, well, what can I do to better the situation?
At least the parts I can control.
Exactly.
What can I do about it? Yes.
I think that maybe it's probably easier for women because we don't have this, generational inundated entitlement to other people. We have never, and I'm saying this very carefully, cautiously, we're not typically, because for some white women throughout history this has been the case, but we're not typically used to owning other people or controlling what other people can do with themselves, with their own bodies, with their lives. And so when you're not in that position of power, you have to find other ways to gain control. And so for most women, gaining control isn't about controlling others. It's about what can we change that's within our control. The only thing that we've had the ability to control is ourselves, our responses, our actions. And so women are more used to looking internally for how they can help themselves than externally.
Yes, correct.
So for any of the listeners, and this is not just for women, this is for men as well who are listening, what is your opinion of AI girlfriends? Do you think that it is a good thing? Do you think it's going to help resolve the male loneliness epidemic? Do you see it as a positive? Because I can see how somebody could potentially think of it as a positive, like, okay, if those incels are over there with their AI girlfriends, they're not bothering
us alone.
Or do you think, like us, that there are more negatives than positives when it comes to the effects that it could have? We love a difference of opinion. Yes, exactly. We love a difference of opinion. Please definitely go on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and let us know in the comments section. We would love to hear from you.
Yes. So friends, be sure also wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, that you like, subscribe, follow, do all the wonderful things. And also, if you could please leave us a review wherever it is you are listening to this podcast. That is huge. It really helps us with the algorithm so that others who would also like our content can find us. So friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week as we went into this fun topic. We are curious to hear from you, so yes, we're excited to hop on social media and hear all your thoughts. And until next week, friends, we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.